Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you can catch new spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so it's been a little minute since we covered anything from the Ultimates universe. Like a good minute. And we've covered other stuff from this universe on this channel before, but I'll admit that there are a few characters and stories here and there that we didn't cover, mainly because they didn't tie into the stories that we were talking about at the time. And some of you guys probably thought it to be strange as well, especially when we were covering the Ultimates universe and we started talking about Infinity Stones and Thanos wasn't mentioned like at all. And that's one of the things about the Ultimates universe. It's very similar to your 616, but the storylines just don't go hand in hand like that. Like for example, how you have 6 stones in the 616 universe, but if you jump over to the 1610 universe, you'll have 8 stones instead. And this makes it very similar at a glance, but a lot of stuff about it is very different. And I'm sure a lot of you guys that's been rocking with me for a minute, you already know a lot of this. So I'm not going to spend too much time explaining the universe in particular, because I've done that in other videos, and I'll leave you guys a link if you want to check that out as well. But rather in this video, I'm going to focus more on who Thanos is of the 1610 universe, and also let you know why he wasn't in a lot of the big events that also occurred in the 1610. So now for a majority of his appearances in the 1610 universe, and when I say majority, I mean like 99%, like just about all we've seen of him. But a large number of these appearances all took place in Ultimate's Fantastic Four. So now your Ultimates universe, your Fantastic Four, a lot of these stories took place before your Ultimatum, took place before your Incursion, a lot of that. In fact, everything that we're going to talk about in this video took place long before our James Hudson Son of Wolverine playlist. This is so far before all of that we actually see Reed Richards at this time as Reed Richards before he becomes the Maker. And that's an interesting journey we may cover in the future because he is on that short list of people who made it out of the 1610 universe before it was destroyed. And before this is done, I'll tell you guys how there's a possibility that Thanos may have made it out as well too. And so now with your 1610 version of Thanos, we're not told exactly how old he is, but we do know that over 30,000 years ago, he discovered the Cosmic Cube, which mysteriously landed on his planet Akron. And ever since then, he's been on this conquest throughout the universe with the goal to further expand and establish his order, but also dying and being reborn a countless number of times throughout the process. And although some people would compare your Ultimate Thanos to more of a Darkseid type of character from DC, with the way that Darkseid originally pursued the Omega Sanction, and they compare that to Thanos chasing the Cosmic Cube here, but I would argue to say that Ultimate Thanos does remind me a bit of Darkseid, but he also has a bit of Apocalypse in him as well. And the reason why I feel like I gotta compare those two hand in hand with this Thanos is because just like we've seen them both do in the past where they absorb the lives of others in order to restore themselves, Ultimate Thanos has done the same in order to live so long. And really, in my opinion, when it comes to like the coldest of the coldest, when you're talking about villains, that's like one of the coldest things you could do. Because essentially what he was doing was sentencing his own people to a fate that was worse than death. But because he also had a fixation with death, he would look at it like, okay, death is actually better than life because that is the end of all uncertainty. But I feel like, man, if it's that good, well, you just keep it, man. I'm good. You can have it, man. But in his own twisted way, he believed that he had to keep coming back in order to fulfill his purpose. And one of his common methods of making sure that his will or his purpose is fulfilled is mind control. So now, in most cases, I'm not a huge fan of the whole mind control thing because a lot of the time, mind control and time travel get used out of context and really get used as a way out. Like a writer will back themselves into a corner and use either one of the two to find a way out of it. So now, as far as Thanos is concerned, this is used as a tool for him to reach out to the Fantastic Four with using Ben Grimm as a host. And when this happens, Thanos is really trying to get to Reed Richards because he wants him to build another Cosmic Cube. And Thanos is doing this because at some point in time, the previous one was destroyed. He was in a battle with Mother Induna, I believe it was, and she sacrificed her life in order to destroy it and stop Thanos. But as far as Ultimate Thanos and this whole mind control thing that he does, I excuse it for 2 reasons. My first reason because it wasn't just used to take over the mind of Reed Richards and make him build another cube, but rather Thanos was selective on who he used it on and what purpose he used it for. Like for example, there's one character known as the Tesseract who is the most powerful warrior of the Seed people, also known as the Everywhere Man. Thanos recognized this power that he had, and by the means of biomechanical technology, he made sure that he was a weapon that would belong to Thanos and that he could use at his disposal. So it wasn't like he was just using mind control on people left and right. And in many cases, he was used a tactic of fear in order to influence people, but he also believed that freedom was disorder, which is the second thing that I did like about how this Thanos was written. Like all the beliefs that he has, they're built around something, or they make sense in a way. But with him telling Reed all of this, he's really trying to make the persuasion to get Reed to build this new cosmic cube. And he really tries to sell him on the benefits of, hey, you'll know death the way that I know death, and because I'm in the mind of Ben Grimm, I know what he wants, and I know he doesn't even want to be in this body. So he offered even to switch Ben Grimm's mind into the body of one of his soldiers who was younger and stronger. But really, this whole conversation between Thanos and Reed Richards, it serves the purpose of Thanos really just planting this idea in Reed Richards' head. Because Thanos knew that either way, by showing that he was an imminent threat, or even by offering Reed Richards the opportunity to know death and return from death like he does, that Reed would take either one as a motivation to either build a cube for Thanos or build a cube to either try to stop Thanos. And once again, with the whole mind control thing with this Thanos, it's not like it's something he can just inflict on anybody and make anybody do what he wants, but rather he uses it as a tool to plant ideas in someone's head in order to give them the right motivation in order to get the return that he expects. And that's exactly what happens here between Thanos and Reed Richards. Because not too long after, Reed goes on to create the cube, but with the idea of using it to stop Thanos. And so now essentially the functionality of this cube, or what it's able to do, is transfer matter into energy and vice versa. And eventually he did figure out how to make it work, but the interesting thing is along in this process, when Reed struggled to find a sustainable energy source, he tried to extract one from a shooting star, but as it turned out, it was really the Silver Surfer. And Reed ended up teleporting the Silver Surfer to Earth for a little while, but those events kind of go in a different direction, and they really serve the purpose of introducing the Galactus Wave to the Ultimates universe, or better yet, the Galactus Swarm. And I go into more detail explaining that in another video with James Hudson, the son of Wolverine, and I'll leave a link if you need to go back and get a refresher on the Galactus Swarm from the 1610. And if you guys remember that video, they look a lot like the Sentinels from the Matrix, but they serve the purpose of your conventional Galactus, but they function as a hive. It's pretty crazy. But either way, after Reed Richards had completed constructing the Cosmic Cube, Thanos had pretty much abducted the whole city of Manhattan and brought it back to his home planet, Akron. And it's here where Reed Richards faces off with Thanos using the Cosmic Cube. But real quick before I forget to mention this at all, if you guys remember, I think it was like the 30 plus Hulks rundown video where I talked about even a time when Hulk went up against Red Skull and he had the Cosmic Cube himself in the 1610 universe. So now just to make a clear distinction, that red cube was a version made after this blue one. It was built by a company named AIM after the Ultimatum Wave, but like I said, that took place way after all of this. But either way, when Thanos and Reed face off with the cube, Thanos gets to see into Reed Richards' past and his childhood, and from his perspective, he feels like Reed is just really too weak to handle this kind of power. Because to wield this cube efficiently, you have to be strong in mind, and whatever thought crossed through your mind can either be birthed into reality, transferred from energy, or destroyed and converted back to energy. But with Thanos taking the cube at this point and seeming to have won, what he really didn't realize is that Reed kind of played him all along. Because with this version of the Cosmic Cube, Reed actually rigged it. So when Thanos tried to merge with him and become the Godhead, Reed set it up so it would destroy him in the process. And so really this is where it gets interesting, because this is essentially the death of Thanos in the 1610 universe. Or is it? Because right here in this moment, we definitely see him die. And in the 1610 universe, where the universe is about to end and Infinity Stones start popping up, it's because Thanos died here is why we don't see him later on. And with him being killed here, like I said, that's why we don't get Thanos in those later on events. And initially, I felt like they did this to kind of mention Thanos in the 1610 universe, but not really use him and kind of push him out the way to do other things later on. But going back to read it again, it's almost like his character is sitting in this loophole to where he could return again. And I'm just saying it's possible, not definitely, but if this was the intention early on for them to bring back his character in a different universe, the answer pretty much lies in what Reed Richards does with the cube after Thanos is destroyed. And what he does is drop the cube into a small rift in space that goes back in time over 30,000 years ago. And when Reed does this, we're left to imagine like, okay, well, he has it rigged so it'll kill Thanos when he tries to use it. So when he drops it to the planet Akron, approximately at the same time that Thanos found the original cube, we're left with only the imagination to figure out what's going on. Because on one hand, you're thinking, okay, did Reed throw it back there to kill Thanos? As soon as he uses it, it'll kill him again like it did in the present time? Or is this a case of like the chicken and the egg? And is Reed Richards the original architect of the Cosmic Cube, but Thanos just used him to speed up the process? It's really a mind trip at the end of the day, because you really just don't know. But I will say this is something that we've seen pretty frequent in Marvel Comics, and I believe the last time we talked about it is when we covered Kang in the 1610 universe. Because if you guys remember, Kang the Conqueror from the 1610 universe was actually Sue Storm, but because of changes in the timeline, her Earth became Earth 13074, and it's possible that this chain of events may have done the same to Thanos. And if this is true and he was placed in a different reality from the 1610 universe, then he may still be alive on Earth number who knows what. But that's it for this one, guys. Do excuse me if I sound crazy in this video because I am getting over a cold. So if you're new here and you wonder why I sound like Jadakiss, you know what I'm saying? I don't always sound like this. But like I said, that'll do it for this one. If you learned something new, go ahead and smash that like button. It's a lot of awesome stuff going on right now. Infinity War trailer out. And I was tweeting yesterday about the Marvel deal that might go down next week. Hopefully that comes through when we get Fantastic Four and X-Men and all that with Marvel Studios. And I've tried not to say a lot about it lately because I just want it to happen. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm thinking I may do is bring back my series after Infinity and start talking about it there. We'll see. But I got links up for you guys to check out all my other spills. Check those out here. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Alright, later.